You guys know I love to get technical here, so today we are talking about vocal onsets, what they are and how they can affect your ability to sing high without straining. Welcome back to Singing Tips with LJDstudios, the space where we take difficult singing concepts and break them down so you can actually understand and implement them for better singing. I'm Laura, and today we are breaking down this concept of vocal onsets. Before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you haven't already, download my free guide, The 3-Tiered Approach to Becoming a Better Singer, linked in the description. Additionally, I would love to have you sign up for my membership, the LJDstudios Singers Toolbox. With that, you get access to an online library of countless vocal exercises. You get multiple video feedback mini lessons per month, access to a group masterclass, discounts on private lessons, and access to my Yoga for Singers 10 video, I'm going to call it a class. Anyways, I would love to have you sign up for that. So the link is in the description for that as well. Okay, let's get into it. How can vocal onsets affect your ability to sing high without straining? Okay, so what even is a vocal onset? Vocal onset refers to the way we start the sound, specifically the coordination or timing of the closing of the vocal folds with the timing of the airflow. Right, so your vocal cords are here, and when you're breathing, they're just sort of sitting here open. When we are phonating, which is a fancy word for making sound, your vocal cords are vibrating, right? They're doing like this. And what has to happen is, on a muscular level, the muscles bring your cords together, but then airflow is what causes them to vibrate, right? So it's the timing of that, of when your muscles bring your vocal cords together with when the airflow meets the cords, okay? That's what we're working with when we're working with vocal onset. There are 3 types of vocal onset. Now, actually, I should say there's probably like a myriad, but we reduce them down into 3 sort of categories. And so any other type of vocal onset you might do would probably fall into one of these 3 categories. They are breathy, glottal, and balanced. So a breathy onset is that you hear breath and then you hear the sound. So in the case of like vocal inflammation, vocal fatigue, or even like if you're dealing with like nodes or polyps or cysts, you might hear something like this, right? Which is this really aggressively breathy onset of like, I'm throwing a bunch of air at it and then my cords finally slam together. I can't think of a lot of instances where you would want to make that sound, but that sound might occur, again, if you were experiencing some kind of vocal injury or just a little bit of vocal fatigue. A breathy onset that might occur in a more usable way would be when you're just trying to make a breathy sound in general, right? If you're Marilyn Monroe, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, Mr. President. Right, then we might have some breathy onsets. Also, anytime you have a word that starts with an H, technically that's a breathy onset. So breathy onsets are not necessarily a bad thing, but it is where first the airflow moves through the space of the cords and then the cords start to come together and they vibrate. That's a breathy onset. Okay, the next type of onset is what we refer to as a glottal onset. Glottal onsets occur everywhere within most languages, a lot in the German language if you happen to be a German speaker. They occur within the English language also, but a glottal onset is when the musculature of the larynx brings the vocal cords together, then we get air coming up and it bursts through and it makes this sort of like explosive sound on the front. So if I did a really big version of that, it would sound like this. I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of that. That's going to wear you out after a while. That's extreme. And that doesn't really show up anywhere in normal speech patterns, that extreme version. You could use it as a vocal effect, but again, if you do it a lot, it might be kind of tiring to your voice. But a way that it shows up less aggressively in speech is just if you were to say, uh-oh, 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 right? You can hear that little click on the front, uh-oh, right? So again, that's cords coming together and then the air sort of exploding through a little less aggressively, so that's going to be a lot less fatiguing. Okay, so that's glottal onset. A balanced onset is when the cords come together at the same time that the air meets the vocal cords. So it's kind of like a Goldilocks and the Three Bears situation in that we've got breathy, which is way over here where the air comes through and then the chords come together. And then we've got glottal over here where the chords come together and then the air bursts through. And then balance is where the timing is exact. Now, it'd be cool to think that like, breathy is here and glottal is here and balance is right in the middle. It's not. A balanced onset leans much closer to a glottal onset than a breathy onset. It's helpful to kind of first note what your habits are, and then you can decide which way you need to tilt it to just land it balanced. But most people need to tilt closer to a glottal onset than to a breathy onset to land at balanced. The word I really like to help you experience a balanced onset is the word awesome. Awesome. If you just say it like you'd say it, right? It's not uh-oh, which has that really strong glottal onset. Awesome, awesome. And then go back and forth between awesome and uh-oh. Awesome, uh-oh. You can feel that they have a lot in common, but that uh-oh is a little more extreme than awesome, but it's definitely not awesome, right? So the way you say the word awesome is going to really land you quite closely to a balanced onset. Okay, so I promised you that we would talk about how onsets affect our ability to sing without strain, particularly high notes. So when we go for a high note, there is a good instinct that ends up in, I don't want to say bad, but I'm just going to say it because I don't have the other word, that ends up in bad implementation, right? And by bad, I just mean something that causes us to feel strain. So the good instinct is that we need more energy as we go for a higher pitch. And so what do? We really wind up for it, right? And then we throw a ton of air at it. We go like, ah, as we're going for that higher pitch, okay? Good instinct, more energy. Bad implementation, that air didn't actually have more energy. It did have more weight. It did not have more energy. If you're interested in this concept of what energized airflow is, man, I've done a lot of videos on this. I will link them in the description, but I really encourage you to check those out because there's a difference between big, heavy air and fast, energized air. So check out my videos on that. But suffice it to say, again, our instinct is to just throw a ton of air at it. So what happens? We tend to lean toward that kind of breathy onset as we go for that higher pitch and we go, right? You heard the big H on the front of it. I threw a bunch of air at it and then my chords came together. The ending result is big, heavy, sluggish air, which is not what higher pitches need. They need thin, fast, energized air. So if we can aim for a balanced onset, and remember your balanced onset is going to probably lean toward glottal. If we can aim for a balanced onset on that higher pitch, it's going to keep us from just throwing this big, heavy air at it. So the way I would practice that is with the word awesome. And I would just do it on a 5-1 or so to do pattern where you go awesome and then go up a half step, awesome, and then up a half step, awesome, 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 until you get up to whatever high pitch you want. I'll turn my keyboard on and I'll pick one for you, right? And when you go for that really, really high pitch, try not to worry too much about whether it's in the register you want. So for men, try not to worry, don't panic about is it going to come out in falsetto or not? Who cares? That's not what we're practicing right now. Ladies, same thing. If you're trying to practice a belt and it comes out in head voice, that's not what we're worried about right now. Right now, we're just worried about getting the coordination of the timing of the closure of the chords with the airflow, right? And then you can work on all that other stuff later. But if you get a good balanced onset, I really think it's going to help you eliminate a lot of strain, right? So if I'm going to go for this note here and I go, right, that doesn't feel great, doesn't sound great, right? It's a little strained because I'm throwing a lot of air and then I'm bringing my chords together, right? So now I'm going to aim for the word awesome and I'm going to go, awesome, right? And now it's coming out much clearer, much more easily because I'm getting the chords to close. At the same time, the air comes through, which keeps me from just blowing big, heavy air at it, okay? So suffice it to say, when we go for high notes, again, the instinct is to blow a ton of air at it. High notes don't need lots of air. They need fast air. So when you get this coordination correct, it's going to help you get the correct airflow. All right, that's it for vocal onsets, you guys. As always, shoot me a comment. Let me know what you want to learn. I've been doing this for almost a year now, every single Friday. And I've loved just fielding your questions and interacting with you all online, but I am running out of ideas. I've covered a lot of the gambit here. So let me know what you want to learn, and happy singing.